Chapter 142. Whoosh, whoosh. Then, Lu Ming thrusted his spear twice in a row. The two spears were as fast as lightning, like two meteors streaking across the sky, illuminating the horizon with blazing flames. Boom, boom. Then, the two meteors suddenly exploded, and a terrifying and violent power erupted in an instant. Sword chi, saber light, and blazing spear light swept out from the place where the three of them collided. Several silver-robed elders laid down a heavy defense, protecting the tables, chairs, and the disciples of the four courtyards behind them. Whoosh, whoosh. At this time, a saber and a sword flew far away. At the same time, two screams were heard as two figures were thrown out, blood splattering in the sky. It was Jen Wuchen and the young man with a saber. When the light dissipated, Lu Ming stood motionless with his spear in hand. Victory, Lu Ming won. He fought two geniuses of the Qilin Academy alone, and it was still only one move. He swept his opponents with an unstoppable force. Too tyrannical. No matter what kind of genius you are, no matter what kind of special bloodline you have, one man with one spear will sweep the world. Everyone seemed to have seen such a scene. The clothes of Jen Wuchen and the young man with a saber were torn, and there were wounds on their bodies. They were in a sorry state. Lu Ming walked step by step toward Jen Wuchen, looking down at him, and said indifferently, "I said that I would defeat you in 3 moves. Now, it's just 3 moves. Lu Ming, just you wait. Sooner or later, I will kill you." Jen Wuchen looked at Lu Ming crazily, his eyes full of malevolence. "Look, you're here again. Didn't you just say that? A person who doesn't have the ability to talk big is a joke. Now, you can't even be considered a joke." Lu Ming mocked. "Speak, speak. I, Jen Wuchen, swear that I will return today's humiliation to you 10-fold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold. I will torture you. I will wantonly humiliate Qiu Yu in front of you. I will make you suffer so much that you wish you were dead. I will make you regret what you did today." Jen Wuchen roared like a mad dog. The murderous intent in his eyes was so dense that it almost materialized. He already hated Lu Ming to the bone. That bastard trash actually dared to injure and defeat him in front of so many people. In his opinion, this was a great humiliation. Of course, he wouldn't think about humiliating others. In his opinion, it was only right. Lu Ming smiled, but there was a cold murderous intent in his smile. "I, Lu Ming, hate it the most when people threaten me. You shouldn't have threatened me." Lu Ming's voice turned cold, and the killing intent on his body was not concealed at all. Jen Wuchen's heart couldn't help but turn cold as he shouted, "What do you want? What are you doing? Didn't you just say that you wanted to cripple me? Now that you've come to threaten me, in order to prevent future troubles, of course I have to cripple you." Lu Ming smiled faintly. "Cripple me? You dare? Lu Ming, you are a piece of trash. Do you know who I am? I have a special bloodline, a disciple of the Qilin courtyard, the future overlord of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect, the future pillar. You dare to cripple me?" Jen Wuchen laughed as if he had heard a joke. But he only laughed halfway before he couldn't laugh anymore. Because he found that Lu Ming's eyes were cold and firm, unshakable. His heart turned cold as a bone-piercing chill rose from his tailbone and rushed to the top of his head. He hurriedly shouted, "No, don't, whoosh." Before he could finish his words, Lu Ming's long spear pierced his dantian, shattering the cyclone in his dantian. Jen Wuchen was stunned for a long time before he let out a heart-wrenching scream. "Ah, my dantian, my cultivation, Lu Ming, you bastard, trash, you actually crippled my cultivation. You will die a horrible death." Hiss, gasps could be heard from the audience. Lu Ming really crippled Jen Wuchen's cultivation. What a decisive character, what a ruthless method, and what guts. Jen Wuchen was a peerless genius of the Qilin courtyard. He had a special bloodline and was the focus of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect. He had been hiding in secret for fear of being assassinated by other sects. But now, his cultivation had been crippled by someone from his own sect. "It's good that you crippled him. If it were me, I wouldn't hesitate either." Ling Kong's eyes flashed with ferocity as he said coldly. The others were speechless. "Who was like you, A monster who didn't care about the consequences. Lu Ming, you're finished. You crippled my cultivation. You can't escape. I'm a genius of the Qilin courtyard. The sect will definitely seek justice for me. You're dead. Jian Wuchen still roared. But Lu Ming's face was incomparably calm. He looked at Jian Wuchen indifferently and said, "Idiot." What? Jian Wuchen was a little stunned. "Let me ask you, what are you relying on?" Lu Ming suddenly asked. Jian Wuchen desperately clutched his dantian in a daze. The others were also the same. They didn't know why Lu Ming asked this question. Your reliance is nothing more than your special bloodline and your talent. You rely on your special bloodline and think that you're high and mighty. You look down on others and treat them as trash. With your special bloodline, the sect has to take care of you in every way possible and spend a lot of resources to nurture you. All of this is brought about by your bloodline and talent. Lu Ming said. Yes, I was born noble. How can you be envious? Jian Wuchen said. Lu Ming smiled faintly. He looked down at Jian Wuchen and said word by word, "However, the talent that you think you have is better than trash in front of me. Your so-called talent is nothing in front of me. Do you think the sect will punish me, a person whose talent is far above yours, for a trash like you whose cultivation has been crippled? Is it possible?" Rumble. Every word of Lu Ming's was like a thunderclap that exploded in Jian Wuchen's mind. Yes, Lu Ming's talent is far above mine. His value to the mystic essence sword sect is also far above mine. Why would they punish Lu Ming for a trash like me? It's impossible. Maybe the sect's higher-ups will even spare no effort to nurture Lu Ming. No, it's not like this. It can't be, it can't be. Jian Wuchen roared in despair. He couldn't accept all this. He knew that he could only be crippled in vain. The sect would never stand up for him. The others also came to a realization. It was indeed so. Lu Ming's talent was comparable to geniuses like Duan Mulin and Feng Wuji. Ordinary special bloodlines were inferior to him. How could they really punish him? Today is Brother Mu Yun's big day. Hurry up and take him away from me. Lu Ming no longer looked at Jian Wuchen, who was like a pile of mud, and turned his gaze to the saber-wielding youth. At this time, the saber-wielding youth and the strong youth were scared out of their wits. They didn't dare to say anything. They quickly dragged Jian Wuchen, who was still shouting, out of the courtyard. Chapter 143. Today was really full of twists and turns. In the beginning, Jian Wuchen and the others arrived and displayed their supreme and incomparably powerful strength. They almost swept away all the geniuses on the bronze list. No one on the bronze list was a match for them. In the end, even Zhong Muyun was defeated. Everyone thought that the bronze list's reputation would be ruined today. But at that moment, Lu Ming arrived. He crushed the geniuses of the Qilin Academy with his jaw-dropping strength. In the end, he even crippled Jian Wuchen, turning the situation around. Today, not only would the honor of the bronze list not be damaged, but it would also rise to a higher level because of Lu Ming. The disciples of the four great academies would feel that the mysterious Qilin Academy was only SOSO. So what if they had a special bloodline? Ordinary life forms with bloodlines could still defeat them. Duan Mulin was like that. He suppressed the Qilin Academy and was known as the leader of the four great geniuses. Now, it was Lu Ming. This way, the disciples of the four great academies would be more confident and their beliefs would be firmer. Brother Muyun, this is my gift. Are you satisfied? At that moment, Lu Ming turned around and smiled. Ha ha ha, junior brother Lu's gift can be said to be unprecedented. Please take a seat. Zhong Muyun laughed and invited Lu Ming to sit with him. Lu Ming smiled cheerfully and went forward to take a seat. At that moment, someone had already come to tidy up the battlefield. Not long after, the battlefield was roughly tidied up and the dishes began to be served. The banquet began and the atmosphere was lively. Senior brother Zhong, I'll toast you. Not long after, someone began to toast. After toasting Zhong Muyun, it was time to toast Lu Ming. Ling Kong carried a wine jar and came in front of Lu Ming. He said, Lu Ming, you're really generous today. I, Ling Kong, have never been convinced by anyone, But now, I'm convinced by you. Give me 3 big bowls. After saying that, Ling Kong carried the wine jar and gulped it down. Come. Lu Ming stood up, picked up the big bowl, and drank 3 bowls in a row. All right, junior brother Lu Ming is heroic. I'll also toast you 3 bowls. Duan Gang stood up and also carried a wine jar. Lu Ming did not refuse any of them. He raised his bowl and drank heartily. Seeing that Lu Ming didn't put on any airs, everyone had a better impression of Lu Ming. They all came forward to propose a toast, and the atmosphere was very lively. Of course, there were exceptions, such as the disciples of the White Tiger sect. Their eyes flickered as they sat off to the side awkwardly. Some of them even had gloomy expressions. They were the only ones who weren't happy that Lu Ming had defeated Jian Wuchen and the others. The stronger Lu Ming was, the more disadvantageous it would be for the Duanmu clan. Everyone toasted each other and soon, 3 rounds of wine had passed. During the 4 Academies tournament, although they were opponents, that was only on the battle stage. Since they were all disciples of the mystic origin sword sect, there was no grudge between them. Furthermore, they were all youngsters, so it didn't take long for them to bond with one another. For example, although Cheng Failwan was a girl, she was incomparably heroic. Relying on the fact that she was also a disciple of the Vermilion Bird sect like Lu Ming, she forced Lu Ming to drink a jar of wine. In the end, she drank until her eyes were blurry and her face was red. She was incomparably beautiful. Ling Kong, Duan Gang, Dong Ce, and the other perverts howled incessantly as they surrounded Cheng Failwan. A few silver-robed elders were drinking at the side. Their eyes were filled with anticipation as they looked at these youths. This was the Jianghu. This was the spirit of youths, filled with passion and passion. They competed with each other, but they didn't lack friendship. These youths were the future pillars of the mystic origin sword sect. They couldn't wait to see this group of youths grow up. After 3 rounds of wine, it was already late at night. The banquet finally ended. Everyone gathered in groups and returned home. That night, Lu Ming didn't cultivate. After returning to his dormitory, he had a good night's sleep. When he woke up the next day, it was already noon. Lu Ming felt refreshed. As he stretched his body, a thunderous sound rang out from his body. He opened the door and walked out. He saw Pang Shi returning from outside the courtyard with a face full of excitement. Upon seeing Lu Ming, Pang Shi said excitedly, "Senior brother Lu Ming, you're really amazing. Yesterday at senior brother Zhong Muyun's banquet, you defeated the genius of the Qilin courtyard in 3 moves. Now the news has spread throughout the sect." After saying that, Pang Shi looked at Lu Ming with incomparable admiration. The speed of the news is really fast. Lu Ming thought to himself. Senior brother Lu Ming, do you know? I've become a celebrity now. Because I'm in the same dormitory as you, as long as I walk out, there will be a group of female disciples surrounding me. Pang Shi continued. A group of female disciples surrounding you? What for? Lu Ming was stunned. Pang Shi grinned and said, "Of course it's to find out about your news and hobbies. What kind of girls do you like? Do you have anyone you like? And after the news about you spread yesterday, this trend became even more terrifying." Ah! Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Then, he smiled bitterly. He didn't expect such an outcome. Sigh. It seems that it's not good to be too famous. Lu Ming sighed happily. Those girls were too enthusiastic. I couldn't resist and told you everything I know. Senior brother Lu Ming, you won't blame me, right? Pang Shi looked at Lu Ming and said, "Thank you for your hard work, Big Stone." Lu Ming patted Pang Shi's shoulder and then asked casually, "By the way, what did you say?" "I said that you like plump and mature girls and that you already have someone you like." "It's Elder Mulin's," Pang Shi said. "WH. What?" Lu Ming staggered and almost fell. He looked at Pang Shi with a dumbfounded face and said, You really said that? Oh my God, who told you that?" "The flower addict told me. He said that you always want to take advantage of Elder Mulin's. He said that he wants to cut ties with you and said that you forget friendship when you're in love. And through my observation, what he said is quite reasonable." Pang Shi scratched his head and said, "Reasonable? Reasonable my ass. Lu Ming's forehead was full of black lines. He gritted his teeth and said, "Flower addict, I'm not done with you." Senior brother Lu Ming, why are you angry? What I said was quite effective. Many girls left with a sad face and said that they won't pester you anymore. Pang Shi continued. Lu Ming almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. If this news spread to Mulins, how could he face Mulins? Mulins wouldn't misunderstand, right? At this moment, Lu Ming could only smile bitterly and cry without tears. Seeing Lu Ming's appearance, Pang Shi asked with concern, "Senior brother Lu Ming, what's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? Were you injured in the battle yesterday?" "No, I want to be alone." Lu Ming had a tired expression on his face. "Oh, okay, then I won't disturb you," Pang Shi said and then returned to his room. Lu Ming wanted to cry but had no tears. He wondered if he should explain to Mulins. "Forget it, I don't care. But then again, it's normal for me to have some thoughts about senior sister Mulins's appearance and figure." Hee hee. Lu Ming chuckled. Very quickly, he adjusted himself and strolled outside. These few days, Lu Ming didn't intend to cultivate and planned to relax. Chapter 144. For the next 7 days, Lu Ming rested whenever he wanted. He went out for a walk whenever he wanted. He casually strolled around the various scenic spots of the Vermilion Bird Peak. Every day, he only spent 2 hours cultivating the true dragon battle art and polishing his true chi. After 7 days of rest, Lu Ming was full of energy. His body and mind were empty. All negative emotions, stress, and worries were thrown aside. "Senior brother Lu Ming, do you want to attend the class? There's an elder who's talking about some basic knowledge of alchemy today." Pang Shi asked Lu Ming when he saw him in the courtyard. Basic knowledge of alchemy? Lu Ming revealed an interested expression. Even if a cultivator wasn't an inscription master and didn't know how to refine pills, knowing some basic knowledge of alchemy would still be of great help to him. For example, if you encountered a precious spiritual herb in the wilderness but didn't know what it was, it would be awkward. Also, some spiritual herbs had to be picked carefully. If you picked them carelessly, they would lose their medicinal properties. As for the true dragon battle art that Lu Ming cultivated, he often needed to mix many ingredients together. Although there was a secret recipe in the true dragon battle art, it would be easier to concoct it if he knew some alchemy. Lu Ming had long wanted to learn some basic knowledge of alchemy. "Let's go together." Lu Ming smiled and walked out with Pang Shi. It was still the same square where he attended the class last time. At this moment, there were already hundreds of people here. "It's senior brother Lu Ming." "Hello, senior brother Lu Ming." Those who came here to listen to the basic knowledge of alchemy were all new disciples. When they saw Lu Ming, they all greeted him respectfully. Now, Lu Ming was an idol in their eyes. He was in the same batch as them, but his achievements were worlds apart. Many of them had yet to break through to the martial master realm. There were even many young female disciples who glanced at Lu Ming with their big watery eyes from time to time. Lu Ming rubbed his nose and pretended not to know. "Hey, why is it Elder Mulins?" At the side, Pang Shi exclaimed in surprise. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and he raised his head to look. Sure enough, above the square, there was a graceful figure leisurely walking over. It was Mulins. Mulins swept her gaze across the crowd. When she saw Lu Ming, she was slightly stunned. Her eyes flickered for a moment before returning to normal. She opened her mouth and said, "Today, I'll talk about some basic knowledge of alchemy. Most of you might not become inscription masters, but it's still good to know a little more. Now, let's start with the basic ingredients and identification." Following that, Mulins talked non-stop, talking about some basic knowledge of alchemy. Lu Ming listened attentively. Mulins's lecture lasted for a few hours. Lu Ming listened as if he was intoxicated. He felt that he had benefited a lot. Could it be that senior sister Mulins is also an inscription master? Lu Ming pondered. "All right, that's all for today. You guys can go back," Mulins announced. Then, she looked at Lu Ming. Her eyes flickered as she said, "Lu Ming, you stay." Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Everyone looked at Lu Ming. Then, They thought of the rumors they heard during this period. Elder Moulins asked Lu Ming to stay alone again. Could it be that the rumors I heard are true? It can't be, right? Lu Ming really likes Elder Moulins. This is very normal. Any man would like her. I like her too. Instantly, there was a wave of whispers in the crowd. Why aren't you leaving? Mu Lan furrowed her brows and shouted. The others were shocked and hurriedly left. Senior brother Lu Ming, do your best. Before Pang Shi left, he even gave Lu Ming an encouraging look. This made Lu Ming's eyelids twitch and he was speechless. Soon, only Lu Ming and Moulins were left in the plaza. Cough cough. Moulins coughed a few times and said, Lu Ming, I heard that you defeated the genius of the Chilean courtyard in 3 moves. This is really out of my expectations. Thank you for senior sister Moulins's praise. I was just lucky. Lu Ming said politely. But I have to tell you that the divine wilderness continent is vast and boundless. There are countless empires. The Blazing Sun Empire is just a drop in the ocean in front of the entire divine wilderness continent. Naturally, there are countless geniuses. Although you have some achievements now, compared to those true monsters, there is still a huge gap. So, you must not slack off. At your age, you must put all your attention on cultivation. You must not think about other things. Moulins warned seriously. It's coming. Lu Ming knew that Moulins had finally reached the main topic. I have been working hard on my cultivation. I wonder what senior sister Moulins is referring to by other things? Lu Ming asked knowingly. This. You don't know? Moulins's eyes flashed as she said. Of course I don't know. I have been cultivating in seclusion for this period of time. I don't know what happened. Lu Ming continued to play dumb. This, Moulins's face was a little red. Her pair of beautiful eyes were misty. After hesitating for a long time, she gritted her teeth and said, during this period of time, there are rumors outside that the person you like is me. Is it true? Ah, is there such a thing? Lu Ming pretended to be shocked. Then, he held his chin with one hand and looked up and down at Moulins. Moulins felt uncomfortable all over. Her beautiful eyes stared and said, Lu Ming, what do you mean by this? Senior sister Moulin, you're devastatingly beautiful and unparalleled. Which man wouldn't be tempted by you? Lu Ming did not answer her question. His eyes continued to look around, and an inexplicable smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Moulins's heart skipped a beat, and said, could it be that the rumors outside are true? He. Lu Ming smiled and slowly approached Moulins. His eyes looked straight into Moulins's eyes. Moulins's heart could not help but beat wildly. Her face turned red, and she tried her best to calm herself down. But Lu Ming's body and face were getting closer and closer. In the end, they could even feel each other's breathing. Moulins's cheeks were red, her heart was beating like thunder. Her pair of beautiful big eyes were misty, revealing a trace of panic. At this time, Lu Ming suddenly smiled and said, it's fake. After saying that, Lu Ming turned around and left with a big smile, leaving behind a dazed Moulins. After a long while, Moulins's voice rang out in the square. She gnashed her teeth and shouted, Lu Ming. Lu Ming, who had already walked far away, suddenly shivered inexplicably. Could it be that I played too much just now? Lu Ming whispered. But when he thought of Moulins's embarrassed look just now, his mood improved, and a smile appeared on his face. Senior brother Lu Ming, did you succeed? A figure suddenly jumped out of a clump of grass at the side. Lu Ming was startled. Nest, big stone, what are you hiding here for? Seeing that it was Pang Shi, Lu Ming was speechless. Of course I'm waiting for your good news, senior brother Lu Ming. I just saw senior brother Lu Ming smiling foolishly all the way. How was it? Was the confession a success? Pang Shi's eyes lit up. What confession? What nonsense. Big Stone, don't talk nonsense. I think you've been led astray by that flower addict. Lu Ming's face was full of black lines. Is it not true? Pang Shi scratched his head. Of course not. Big Stone, I'm telling you, don't talk nonsense when you go out. Also, don't listen to flower addicts' nonsense. Chapter 145. Pang Shi nodded, indicating that he understood. Lu Ming shook his head, indicating that he was speechless. Not long after, the two of them returned to the dormitory. After returning to the dormitory, Lu Ming began to cultivate diligently again. After 7 days of relaxation, Lu Ming was full of energy and his mind was clear. Cultivating martial skills was even easier. 3 days later, the airborne steps broke through again, reaching the 3rd level. The 3rd level of a black class upper martial skill was equivalent to the 6th level of a black class lower martial skill. At this stage of the airborne steps, Lu Ming could already walk on snow without leaving a trace and walk on the tips of the grass. This was the real meaning of flying on grass. If he continued to break through, walking on water would not be a problem. At this stage, Lu Ming spent more time on the true dragon art of combat and the blazing Vajra art. The cultivation of the physical body was indeed very slow. After a few months of cultivation, Lu Ming's physical body was still at the 2nd grade lesser mastery. There was still a long way to go before he reached the 2nd grade greater mastery. As for his cultivation, Lu Ming felt that he had reached the peak of the martial master realm. He was very close to the martial grandmaster realm, only a step away. Moreover, Lu Ming did not need to stop to accumulate, because he cultivated the true art of the battle dragon and had already reached the 3rd level. The density of his true qi was 4 times that of ordinary true qi. He had already accumulated enough. As long as he cultivated to perfection, he would naturally be able to break through. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, another 20 days had passed. The Mystic Essence Sword sect welcomed the annual disciple recruitment. Lu Ming had joined the Mystic Essence Sword sect for exactly a year. These few days, the Mystic Sword City was extremely lively. There were energetic young men and women everywhere. On the day of the assessment, there was a long queue in front of the Mystic Essence Sword sect's mountain gate. Lu Ming walked casually and came to a square near the front of the mountain. Those who passed the assessment had to come here to choose which courtyard to join. Come, join the Azure Dragon Courtyard. The Azure Dragon Courtyard is the oldest among the 4 courtyards. Come to our White Tiger Courtyard. The strongest among the 4 courtyards is our White Tiger Courtyard. The disciples of the 4 great academies were shouting here. On the square, the new disciples who had passed the test were gathered in 2s and 3s to discuss. Let's join the White Tiger Hall. The White Tiger Hall is the strongest among the 4 halls. If you join the White Tiger Hall, you will definitely have a brighter future. What do you know? Do you know that there's a bronze ranking for the 4 great academies' bronze rank disciples? I've heard that the 1st and 2nd place on the bronze ranking aren't from the White Tiger Hall. I've heard of that as well. It's said that the number 1 on the bronze rankings is Lu Ming from the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. He's a disciple who just entered last year and rushed to the top of the bronze rankings the moment he entered. It's said that not long ago, he even defeated a disciple from the Chilean Courtyard who had a special bloodline. What? How did you know that? My big brother is a silver rank disciple. Of course it was him who told me. Then shall we join the Vermilion Bird Courtyard? All right. A few youths discussed for a while before walking towards the entrance of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. Let's go. I want to join the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. Lu Ming is my idol, and also my goal. I must become the newcomer king this year. On the other side, a few youths walked over. One of the youths who was full of heroic spirit said, "Chasing after Lu Ming? With just you? Aren't you thinking too much? How can an ordinary person catch up to such a person?" Another youth said in disdain. The few of them argued and went towards the Vermilion Bird Courtyard to register. The Vermilion Bird Courtyard's disciple who was in charge of registration couldn't stop smiling. The disciples from the other courtyards were incomparably envious. Lu Ming smiled. He didn't expect that he would be so famous now. Even many youths who hadn't entered the courtyard had heard of his name. Furthermore, he had promoted the Vermilion Bird Courtyard's disciple recruitment, which was something he didn't expect. After that, Lu Ming didn't stop and walked towards the Vermilion Bird Courtyard. Junior brother Lu Ming. At this moment, a Vermilion Bird Courtyard's disciple who was in charge of registration saw Lu Ming and greeted him with a smile. Immediately, the gazes of those disciples who had just entered the courtyard gathered on Lu Ming. Lu Ming. Could he be Lu Ming? He's so young. He's about the same age as us. Nonsense, Lu Ming entered the courtyard last year. Of course he's about the same age as us. He's Lu Ming. He's so handsome. There were both male and female disciples who had just entered the courtyard. They all looked at Lu Ming with admiration. Lu Ming smiled bitterly and nodded towards the senior disciple. Then, he walked towards the Vermilion Bird courtyard. It's time to break through to the martial Grandmaster realm. Lu Ming muttered. He came out today mainly to relax and adjust his state of mind. He was preparing to break through to the martial Grandmaster realm. He wasn't the first person on the bronze list to break through. Half a month ago, he heard that Zhong Muyun had already broken through to the martial Grandmaster realm. He believed that many geniuses who had stayed on the bronze list for 1 or 2 years would choose to break through. Along the way, Lu Ming didn't return to the dormitory. Instead, he walked towards the top of the Vermilion Bird Peak. The place he wanted to go was called the Phoenix Resting Cave. It was one of the more famous cultivation grounds in the Vermilion Bird courtyard. Legend had it that a true phoenix once lived there. Hence, it was called the Phoenix Resting Cave. Of course, this was only a legend. Not many people believed it. A true phoenix was an immemorial divine beast. It had long disappeared from the world. Some people speculated that in the distant past, there might have been a supreme flying beast living there. The spiritual chi in the Phoenix Resting Cave was extremely rich. Moreover, it leaned towards the fire attribute. It was very suitable for a breakthrough. Under normal circumstances, if a disciple of the Vermilion Bird courtyard wanted to enter the Phoenix Resting Cave to cultivate, they had to pay contribution points. Moreover, it wasn't something that could be entered with contribution points. The quota was extremely limited. However, Lu Ming didn't need contribution points. This was the reward given to him by the Vermilion Bird courtyard when he won first place in the 4-courtyard tournament. He could enter the Phoenix Resting Cave to cultivate for a month. Lu Ming's journey was smooth. Soon, he arrived in front of the Phoenix Resting Cave. The entrance of the Phoenix Resting Cave was sealed by a stone gate. In front of the gate, there was an old man guarding it. The old man had his eyes closed and was motionless. Stop. The Phoenix Resting Cave is an important place in the Vermilion Bird courtyard. You can't enter at will. Suddenly, the elder guarding the door opened his eyes. Lu Ming seemed to see 2 beams of sword gleams shooting out. An aura as strong as a mountain emanated from the elder's body. An expert. He's definitely a martial arts grandmaster expert. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. I'm here to cultivate in the Phoenix Resting Cave. Lu Ming cupped his fists and bowed. Cultivate. If I remember correctly, there's no quota for this month. The old man said. I'm Lu Ming. Principal Yang said that I can come at any time. Lu Ming took out his identity jade badge and handed it to the old man. You're Lu Ming. The old man's eyes lit up. He took the identity jade badge and smiled. Not bad. You can enter at any time. The time limit is 1 month. Go in. The old man returned the identity jade badge to Lu Ming. With a wave of his hand, the stone gate of the Phoenix Resting Cave opened. Thank you, Senior. All of it was absorbed by Lu Ming and transformed into an even more majestic true energy. So powerful. Is this the strength of a martial grandmaster? His true chi is 10 times stronger than the peak of the 9th level martial master. Lu Ming was delighted. Condense. With a thought, Lu Ming gently waved his right hand, and a fiery red spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Condensing chi into a weapon, this was something only a martial grandmaster could do. Condensing chi into a weapon was like condensing a substance. Although it couldn't compare to a real spiritual weapon, it wasn't too far off. The key was that as long as one's true chi was not exhausted, it would be endless. Shua. Lu Ming waved his hand, and the spear in his hand shot out like lightning. With a kai sound, it pierced through the wall of the stone room, and more than half of it went in. However, as soon as the spear left his hand, it turned into energy and dissipated between heaven and earth. It was said that when one reached the advanced martial Grand Master realm, the the condensed weapon would not dissipate. It could stay for a few days, and could even be lent to others to fight. It was similar to a real weapon. After breaking through to the martial Grand Master realm, Lu Ming's combat strength had increased tremendously. However, Lu Ming did not leave immediately. Instead, he continued to cultivate. He only had a month to cultivate in the Phoenix Perch Cave. There were still a few days left, so he could use it to consolidate his cultivation. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Ming stood up and walked out of the Phoenix Perch Cave, returning to his dormitory. After returning to the dormitory, he saw Hua Kai sitting in the courtyard in a daze. No one knew what he was thinking. Lu Ming, you're back. I've been waiting for you for a few days. Seeing Lu Ming push open the door, Hua Kai's eyes lit up. Waiting for me? What's the matter? Lu Ming asked. I'm going to leave the Mystic Essence Sword sect for a while. I wanted to say goodbye to you. Hua Kai said. Leave the Mystic Essence Sword sect? Where are you going? Lu Ming was stunned. Hua Kai sighed, as if he had a lot on his mind. After a while, he said, something happened at home, so I have to rush back. I'm afraid I won't return to the Mystic Essence Sword sect for a long time. Won't return to the Mystic Essence Sword sect for a long time? Lu Ming frowned slightly. Actually, Hua Kai had always been very mysterious in his eyes. Hua Kai had never mentioned his background. Even Lu Ming and Pang Shi didn't know what Hua Kai's bloodline rank was. They only knew that Hua Kai's talent was shocking. When he first entered the sect, Hua Kai's cultivation was in the Martial Master realm. After a year, Hua Kai's cultivation had risen to the Martial Master realm. This was already shocking for an ordinary genius. It was definitely a top talent. Moreover, they only knew that Hua Kai was very rich. Before, they were all friends, so Lu Ming and Pang Shi didn't ask too much. After all, everyone had their own secrets. But now, Lu Ming was curious. But since Hua Kai didn't say anything, Lu Ming wouldn't ask either. Then we'll meet again. Lu Ming clasped his fists. Lu Ming, Big Stone accepted a mission to exterminate the Dongi tribe 7 days ago. He's heading to Dongqiu City. When you see him, help me say goodbye to him. Hua Kai continued. Okay, no problem. Wait, exterminate the Dongi tribe? What's going on? Lu Ming started to nod, but suddenly remembered something and asked in surprise. The Dongi tribe was a tribe that lived in the coastal mountains. They had millions of people and could communicate with beasts. They were a big threat to the east of the Burning Sun Empire. The east of the Burning Sun Empire was guarded by the Mystic Essence Sword sect. The Dongi tribe couldn't do anything and could only hide in the coastal mountains. Could it be that the Dongi tribe was making a move again? Hua Kai nodded and said, 10 days ago, the Dongi tribe sent out 100,000 troops to attack the area around Dongqiu City. They took down 6 cities in a row, but were stopped at Dongqiu City. The sect has issued a mission for the disciples of the 4 great schools to go and exterminate the Dongi tribe. Killing the Dongi tribe and the demonic beasts they lead will earn you a corresponding amount of contribution points. Right now, many disciples of the 4 great schools are heading to Dongqiu City. Lu Ming nodded and roughly knew what was going on. The coastal mountains were endless and covered the east of the Burning Sun Empire. The Mystic Essence Sword sect was only near the middle of the coastal mountains. There was still a long distance to the north and south. Dongqiu City was about 20,000 miles south of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. It was close to the coastal mountains. Don't worry, I'll tell Big Stone. Lu Ming nodded and said. Okay, then I'll be going. Hua Kai said and walked out. After a few steps, he stopped and said, Lu Ming, if there's a chance, you and Big Stone can come to the Imperial City and find me. The Imperial City? Lu Ming's eyes suddenly brightened. Was Hua Kai's family in the Imperial City? Hua Kai didn't say much and walked out, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The Imperial City? I'll go there sooner or later. Chapter 147. Lu Ming pondered for a while before heading to the mission hall. He was going to accept the mission to exterminate the Eastern barbarians. Killing the Eastern barbarians and their demonic beasts would not only earn him contribution points, but Lu Ming could also devour their blood essence to increase his cultivation. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Arriving at the mission hall, he easily accepted the mission. After receiving the mission token, Lu Ming rushed to Dongqiu City. He did not ride on his mount, but used his movement skill to rush over. With his current movement skill, he was much faster than the green scale horse. Moreover, the process of rushing over was also a process of cultivating his movement skill. Using the airborne steps, Lu Ming's body was as light as a gust of wind. He stepped on the grass with the tip of his foot and flew dozens of meters forward. He was as light as a swan and disappeared in the blink of an eye. At this speed, Lu Ming arrived at the outskirts of Dongqiu City in merely 3 days. Dongqiu City was undoubtedly a big city. The city walls were more than 30 meters tall, which was many times larger than Firestorm City. At this time, the gates of Dongqiu City were tightly shut, and the city walls were guarded by soldiers in iron armor. The city was heavily guarded. "Stop, who are you?" When Lu Ming arrived at the city gates, an armored general on the city walls shouted. "I am a disciple of the Mystic Essence Sword sect." Lu Ming took out his jade identity token and waved it gently. The token flew up the city walls. "You are indeed a disciple of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Open the city gates." After checking the jade identity token, the armored general threw it back to Lu Ming and ordered. Crack crack, the city gates opened slightly and Lu Ming walked in. After Lu Ming entered, the city gates closed immediately. Behind the city gates, there were many armored soldiers on guard. There were more of them than on the city walls. Dongqiu City was guarded by a legion of the Burning Sun Empire. There were 50,000 soldiers, all of whom were elites. Their purpose was to intimidate the Eastern barbarians. Now that the royal family was on the decline and the sects were on the rise, although the armies of the Burning Sun Empire still listened to the royal family on the surface, they actually listened to the sects more. Take Dongqiu City's army for example. On the surface, it appeared that they were under the command of the imperial family, but in reality, they were under the command of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Therefore, they would report to the Mystic Essence Sword sect whenever something happened. "Young hero, the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect are all in the first camp. Let me take you there." A soldier walked up to Lu Ming and said. "All right." Lu Ming nodded. He followed the soldier and headed to the first camp. As soon as he entered the camp, he heard a commotion. "What a joke. You guys haven't even reached Martial Master Realm Stage 4, yet you actually dare to accept this mission. Are you guys really fucking crazy for contribution points? You really don't want to live anymore. Let me tell you, if you embarrass our Mystic Essence Sword sect on the battlefield, I won't forgive you. A few trash below the 4th level of the Martial Master Realm. When the time comes, no one will save you." Arrogant voices sounded in Lu Ming's ears. Lu Ming followed the voice and walked over. As he got closer, he saw a few groups of people gathered together. They were obviously disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Big Stone. Lu Ming spotted Pang Shi among the small group of people at one glance. At that moment, Pang Shi's face was flushed red. He was blocked by another group of people with 3 or 4 other people. "Our cultivation is low, but we won't charge at the front. We can at least kill some scattered Dongi tribesmen, right?" Pang Shi said in a low, muffled voice. "Kill scattered Dongi tribesmen? So you guys are here to take advantage of us? Get back to the sect immediately. Do you think you can take advantage of the White Tiger sect?" A young man with triangular eyes said coldly opposite Pang Shi. "Nonsense. Who said we're here to take advantage of you? I won't take advantage of you." Pang Shi replied loudly. The young man with triangular eyes said coldly, "How dare you talk back? Are you looking for a beating?" There were other disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect at the side, but none of them interfered. They were all watching the show. "Looking for a beating? Who do you think you can beat?" Lu Ming walked over and said indifferently. "Who?" The young man with triangular eyes said coldly and turned to Lu Ming. However, when he saw Lu Ming's face, his face froze. "Lu Ming," the young man with triangular eyes said in a daze. The other people's faces also changed slightly. However, There were also some people who were watching with great interest. This time, it wasn't just the bronze disciples who came, there were also many silver disciples who came. Senior brother Lu Ming, you're here too. Pang Shi was overjoyed when he saw Lu Ming. Big stone. Lu Ming smiled and walked over. Then, he looked at the young man with triangular eyes and said, "Who did you say you wanted to beat?" The young man with triangular eyes stammered for a long time, but he did not say a word. Lu Ming, junior brother Ming is doing it for their own good. They are disciples of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard, right? Their cultivation is too low, not even Martial Master level 4. If they go to the battlefield with such cultivation, it will be very dangerous. Junior brother Ming is doing it for their safety. At this moment, a young man behind the young man with triangular eyes walked up and said, "Yes, that's right." After seeing this young man, the young man with triangular eyes was emboldened. "Oh." Lu Ming responded with an "oh" and then asked the triangular-eyed man, "What is your cultivation level then?" "Me. Peak Martial Master level 6. The young man with triangular eyes replied confidently. "Peak Martial Master level 6. It's very dangerous to go to the battlefield with such a low cultivation. Hurry up and go back." Lu Ming said indifferently and added, "I'm doing it for your own good." "You." The young man with triangular eyes' face turned red. "Lu Ming, don't be unreasonable." Another young man said coldly, "Who do you think you are?" Lu Ming looked at him from the corner of his eyes. "How dare you, Lu Ming? Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you are first on the bronze list. No matter how talented you are, you can only show off among the bronze disciples. Senior brother Du is a silver disciple, a martial master level 2 expert. He can easily suppress you. Now that we are talking to you nicely, don't fail to appreciate our kindness." The young man with triangular eyes pointed at Lu Ming and shouted loudly. Although Lu Ming's battle strength was very strong, he was only a martial master. Although his talent was heaven-defying and he could defeat or even kill a martial master level 1 expert. However, a martial master level 1 and a martial master level 2 were two different concepts. A martial master level 1 expert could not fight back against a martial master level 2 expert. This was the confidence of the young man with triangular eyes. He did not believe that Lu Ming could fight against a martial master level 2 expert. "Martial master level 2? No wonder you are so arrogant." Lu Ming curled his lips and sneered as he waved his hand. "Pa." The young man with triangular eyes was sent flying. "I don't know how to appreciate your kindness, so what?" Lu Ming's indifferent voice sounded, followed by the sound of the young man with triangular eyes landing heavily on the ground. "Lu Ming, you are too arrogant. Do you really think that no one can stop you?" Chapter 148. Of course, there is someone who can defeat me, but unfortunately, it can't be you. Lu Ming curled his lips and laughed. Senior brother Du, you must avenge me." At this moment, the triangular-eyed man struggled to get up and cried out. Unfortunately, one side of his face was swollen like a pig's head. Blood flowed from his mouth and several of his teeth were missing. Senior Du's expression became even more unsightly. Beside him, a few other silver disciples of the White Tiger Hall also walked over with an unfriendly expression. However, they were all first-layer martial masters. This Lu Ming is still as domineering as before. At the side, some disciples from the other halls were watching and someone commented, "Geniuses are all like that. However, I feel that going too far is as bad as falling short. Even if you are a genius, you still have to be patient when you need to be patient. Because a genius who has not grown up is just an ordinary warrior. If you blindly act domineeringly and act according to your temperament, you will definitely suffer." You are right. This Lu Ming's battle strength is indeed very strong. Even a first-layer martial master would be at a disadvantage against him. However, it is impossible for him to be a match for a second-layer martial master. Watch carefully, he is up against Du Feng. He will soon be at a disadvantage. The people at the side were whispering. "Lu Ming, do you know why many geniuses fall early? It is because they do not know how to restrain themselves. When facing an undefeatable opponent, they still act high and mighty. That is why they fall before they mature. Senior Du said coldly. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Nonsense. When facing an undefeatable opponent, of course you have to restrain yourself. Do I need you to tell me that? However, when facing an opponent that can be suppressed with a flip of the palm, why should I restrain myself? The surrounding people were somewhat stunned. Lu Ming's meaning was clear. He could suppress Du Feng with a flip of the palm. Ha ha ha. Du Feng laughed out of extreme anger and said, let's see how you will suppress me with a flip of the palm. Dong. Du Feng took a step forward. It was as if a heavy hammer hammered the ground, producing a violent rumble. The aura on his body burst out. It was thick and powerful like a mountain. It was much stronger than a 9th-layer martial master. It could be said that a 2nd-level martial master could kill a 9th-level martial master with a flip of his hand. Du Feng's hand glowed and a green longsword condensed. It looked as if it was carved from green jade. Slash. Du Feng's sword slashed down towards Lu Ming. Sword Chi whistled, extremely shocking. Stronger than Jian Wuchen, Lu Ming's eyes flickered. As expected of a 2nd-layer martial Grand Master. With Jian Wuchen's battle prowess, killing a 1st-layer martial Grand Master should be easy. However, he should not be a match for a 2nd-layer martial Grand Master. However, Lu Ming was not at the 9th-level martial master. Boom. Without even looking, Lu Ming punched out. His fist was wrapped in a layer of fiery red light, making Lu Ming's fist look like a fireball. Boom. It was unstoppable and unstoppable. Lu Ming's punch directly destroyed the sword aura that Du Feng slashed out, the combat sword that was condensed from his vital energy, and so on. Lu Ming's punch did not stop and continued to bombard. How can this be? In an instant, Du Feng's eyes widened and flashed with disbelief. Then, he roared and exploded with all his strength. His body retreated quickly. His hand glowed and a real spirit weapon appeared in front of him. Clang! Tang Feng's fist smashed onto the spirit weapon sword. A violent force erupted and Du Feng's body was blasted away like a cannonball. He crashed into the wall more than 30 meters away, smashing the wall and causing a burst of smoke and dust to fill the air. Hiss hiss hiss, gasps could be heard from the audience. The disciples of the 4 great academies stared so hard that their eyeballs almost popped out. One punch, just one punch and Du Feng was sent flying. He was not a match at all. He was as weak as a chicken. How is this possible? Could it be that Lu Ming has already broken through to the martial Grandmaster realm? How can he be so fast? But that's the only possibility. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so strong. For geniuses like them, it's easy for them to step into the martial Grandmaster realm. They had never heard of a 9th-layer martial master being able to send a 2nd-layer martial Grandmaster flying with one punch. They guessed that Lu Ming should have stepped into the martial Grandmaster realm. The triangular-eyed man was also dumbfounded. When he reacted, his whole body was trembling in fear. Du Feng struggled to get up from the shattered wall. His body was covered in dust and he was in a very sorry state. Lu Ming, just you wait. This time, there are 3rd-layer martial Grandmasters and even 4th-layer martial Grandmasters from the White Tiger Hall. Let's wait and see. Du Feng fiercely threw down a sentence and then left with his tail between his legs. It was too embarrassing. He couldn't stay for a second longer. The triangular-eyed man also hurriedly left with Du Feng. Lu Ming smiled and didn't care. Senior brother Lu Ming, you've become stronger again. Pang Shi walked over and said, Big Stone, how many days have you been here? Come, tell me about the situation. Lu Ming changed the topic. I've only been here for 2 days. The two of them came to a military camp. Pang Shi introduced the place to Lu Ming. According to Pang Shi, the Dongyi tribe attacked Dongqiu City 3 days ago. However, they retreated not long after and didn't continue to attack for the past 2 days. Big Stone, when the battle starts, he can't be impulsive. Lu Ming warned. During the battle, tens of thousands of soldiers would attack. Pang Shi's cultivation was indeed lower. Now, he was only a 2nd-layer martial master. I know. I just want to train. I won't die for nothing. Pang Shi scratched his head. Then, he walked around with Pang Shi. In the military camp, the army had already gone out to stand guard. Only the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect were here. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect had a special status. Therefore, when there was no battle, they were more casual and could do whatever they wanted. The first day was peaceful. On the second day, it was still peaceful. The Dongi tribe didn't make any moves. In the past 2 days, the disciples of the White Tiger sect didn't cause trouble for Lu Ming either. On the third day of Lu Ming's arrival, dong, dong, dong. Suddenly, the war drums rumbled like thunder, resounding in the military camp. The Dongi tribe is attacking. Let's go and kill them. Haha, my contribution points are here. There were more than 2,000 disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect in the past few days. Most of them were bronze-level disciples and a small number of silver-level disciples. There were about 100 of them. They had been bored out of their wits for the past few days. Now that they heard the war drums, they were all energized and rushed toward the city wall. Lu Ming, Pang Shi, and a few others also rushed toward the city wall. When they arrived at the city wall, the army of Dongqiu City was fully armed. Bows and crossbows were ready. Rumble. At this moment, in the distance, at the end of the coastal mountain range, there was a sudden rumble and the ground shook. Then, a dark cloud appeared at the end of the earth. No, those weren't dark clouds. They were beasts. There were countless beasts. There were tigers, wolves, leopards, and all kinds of beasts. There were even flying beasts. There were 1 or 2 human figures sitting on each of the demonic beasts. They were the Dongi tribe. There were at least tens of thousands of beasts. Roar, roar. Chapter 149. The faces of the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples changed. Some of them looked grave. Some of them were pale and their eyes were filled with fear. Tens of thousands of demonic beasts gathered together, and there were even more Dongi tribesmen among them. The aura they formed was too strong. It was overwhelming, as if it could crush everything. Other than cultivating, the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples usually fought one-on-one with others. When had they ever seen such a scene? Now that they saw it, they were terrified. They used to be arrogant and did not take the Dongi tribesmen seriously. They thought that they were only here to snatch contribution points. Now, they no longer thought that way. This was a real war. It was good enough that they could survive such a war. Some people only felt their legs go soft and were already thinking of retreating. Among them, only Lu Ming had comprehended force. Lu Ming was able to use the force of fire to fight against the force of thousands of beasts. That was why he was not shocked. Get ready. An armored general on the city wall shouted. Whoosh. The movements of the soldiers on the city wall were uniform. Their longbows were drawn, and the bowstrings were fully drawn. Their eyes were fixed on the demonic beast army that was rolling towards them. Most of the soldiers were martial soldiers. Their cultivation might not be as strong as the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples, but they were used to war. Their mental fortitude was much stronger than the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples. Rumble. The tremors became more intense. The army of tens of thousands of demonic beasts was slowly approaching. Kill. When they were close enough, the armored general gave the order. Kill. Kill. On the city wall, the army of tens of thousands roared. Their roars shook the heavens. Whoosh. Whoosh. Then, the bows and arrows were shot out. Like a dark cloud, the arrows shot towards the demonic beast army. Suddenly, the demonic beasts in the army were hit by the arrows and fell to the ground. However, that was only a small part of the army. More demonic beasts continued to charge forward fearlessly. Continue shooting. Whoosh. Whoosh. Another wave of dense arrows shot towards the demonic beasts. Roars shook the heavens and blood filled the air. It was a tragic scene. Some of the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples broke out in cold sweat. In such a situation, no matter how powerful one's cultivation was or how powerful one's Jinchi protection was, one would still be pierced through by the rain of arrows. Ouch, my stomach hurts a little. I need to relieve myself. A Mystic Essence Sword sect disciple suddenly clutched his stomach and screamed. Then, He turned around and ran. Ah, my stomach hurts a little too. What a coincidence. When the others saw this, they also slipped away. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people had left. Lu Ming shook his head. He was scared off just like that. Such a person's future achievements would be very limited. Young heroes, there's no need for you to act now. You'll have to deal with the Dongi experts and high-level demonic beasts. An old man in iron armor walked over and said. Lu Ming recognized this person. He was the city lord of Dongqiu City, Fu Liang. Lu Ming and the rest nodded. The walls of Eastern Q City were tall and majestic, and the demonic beasts below were mostly level 1 demonic beasts. It would not be easy for level 1 demonic beasts to attack. Level 2 and even level 3 demonic beasts would require Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples. This was because there were not many martial grandmasters in the army of Dongqiu City. Most of them were generals. Whoosh! At this moment, the Dongi people began to counterattack. They shot out small arrows from the bodies of the demonic beasts. Defend! With a loud roar, shields were erected on the city walls. Clang! Clang! All the arrows shot by the Dongi people hit the shields. Only a few of them hit the soldiers of Dongqiu City. Counterattack! Another round of arrows was shot from the city walls. After a few rounds, the demonic beasts were already close to the city walls. Charge! Break into Dongqiu City and take all the treasures and women. The Dongi people roared. Charge! Charge! The Dongi people roared and controlled the demonic beasts to charge up the city walls. On the city walls, rolling logs and blazing fire barrels rained down in torrents. Screams of agony were heard. This was completely different from a one-on-one fight between martial artists. Many of the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples felt their mouths go dry. Lu Ming finally understood why the Mystic Essence Sword sect wanted the disciples of the 4 campuses to take on this mission. It was nothing more than training. Only by going through such a bloody battle could one's will become stronger. Roar! Finally, a demonic beast charged up the city walls. The Dongi people on the beast shot out long arrows. Most of the Dongi people were bare-chested. They were strong and had a longbow on their back and a scimitar on their waist. Charge! Fu Liang roared. He pulled out his battle saber and slashed at a Dongi man. The saber pierced through the air and split the Dongi man and his demonic beast in half. Fu Liang was at least a level 3 martial grandmaster. He was extremely powerful. Charge! The other Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples roared and charged. Suddenly, sword chi, saber chi, and fist energy flashed on the city walls. Big Stone, follow me, Lu Ming shouted. With a flick of his hand, the fiery tongue spear appeared. He stabbed out and nailed a demonic beast to the city walls. The Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples were undeniably strong. The moment they attacked, the demonic beasts and Dongi people on the city walls were instantly killed. Retreat! Retreat! Suddenly, a loud roar came from the Dongi people. Then, the horn sounded. Countless demonic beasts retreated toward the coastal mountains like a tide. Everyone was stunned. They retreated just like that. Was it just the beginning? Haha, the Dongi people are just SOSO. Some of the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples were emboldened and laughed. Fu Liang frowned and pondered for a while. Something is wrong. How could the Dongi people retreat as soon as they attacked? It doesn't make sense. Mayor Fu, maybe the Dongi people are afraid of us because we have too many experts. A Mystic Essence Sword sect disciple laughed. Fu Liang frowned and said nothing. Lu Ming was also deep in thought. He had a feeling that things were not as simple as they seemed. The Dongi people came quickly and left quickly. Soon, they were nowhere to be seen. Next, it was time to clean up the battlefield. Lu Ming pretended to help. In fact, his goal was the blood essence of the demonic beasts and the Dongi experts. However, the blood essence of low-level demonic beasts and martial artists was of little help to Lu Ming. Lu Ming specifically chose high-level demonic beasts and martial artists, but there were very few of them. There was not even a single martial grandmaster. Absorbing the blood essence of dozens of demonic beasts and martial artists above the 6th level of the martial Grandmaster realm did not help Lu Ming much. After the battle, Lu Ming and the others went back to rest. A day later, the war drums sounded again. Everyone rushed to the city walls. As expected, the Dongi people were attacking again. However, this time was similar to the last time. The Dongi people had just started their attack and retreated. It was the same on the third day. At this time, many people felt that something was wrong. Chapter 150. Fu Liang sensed that something was amiss. He sent out scouts to patrol around Dongqiu City, fearing that the Dongi tribe was up to something. On the fourth day, the Dongi tribe came again. However, this time, the Dongi tribe's beast army did not attack. Instead, they stopped a few thousand meters away from Dongqiu City. That was beyond the range of the crossbows. Everyone on the city wall looked at each other, wondering what the Dongi tribe was up to. At this moment, a young man rode a tiger and rushed forward a few hundred meters. He looked at Dongqiu City and shouted, "There must be many disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect among you, right? I heard that the Mystic Essence Sword sect is one of the 5 major sects of the Burning Sun Empire. Today, I would like to see it for myself. I am Embark, 19 years old. I challenge all the geniuses of the Mystic Essence Sword sect below the age of 20. Who wants to fight me?" His voice echoed throughout the city. The tens of thousands of soldiers on Dongqiu City were stunned. The Dongi tribe did not come to attack the city. Instead, they sent a young man to challenge the geniuses of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Is the Dongi tribe trying to use this to attack our morale? Fu Liang frowned and pondered. However, they had to accept the Dongi tribe's challenge. The Dongi tribe was only a small tribe with a population of a few million. Compared to the Burning Sun Empire, they were many times weaker. A small tribe sending a young man to challenge the geniuses of the Mystic Essence Sword sect, one of the 5 major sects of the Burning Sun Empire. If they did not accept the challenge, the Dongi tribe would definitely say that the Mystic Essence Sword sect was afraid of them. This would definitely affect the morale of the army. Young heroes, do any of you want to fight? Fu Liang asked the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. We can fight, but be careful of traps. Many disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect hesitated. If they left the city and were attacked by the Dongi tribe, wouldn't they die in vain? The Eastern barbarians seemed to have guessed the crowd's thoughts. The army of demonic beasts slowly retreated. They only stopped when they had retreated 10 miles. Even if they wanted to attack, the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect would have enough time to escape to Dongqiu City. Junior brothers, which of you wants to go up and fight? A young man in his 20s asked from the Mystic Essence Sword sect. The Dongi tribe wanted to challenge those under the age of 20. Since they dare to fight, they must be strong. We must not be careless. Some people were more cautious. What kind of genius can a mere Dongi tribe have? To be able to cultivate to the 9th realm of the Martial Master realm at the age of 19 is already very impressive. However, some people were disdainful. To reach the 9th level of the Martial Master realm at the age of 19, even in the Mystic Essence Sword sect, he could be considered a decent genius. For example, many of the people on the bronze list were already 18 or 19 years old. Some of the older disciples were even in their 20s. I think it's better to be cautious. What if the other party is a martial grandmaster? Someone asked cautiously. First layer martial grandmaster at most. I'll go and fight. In the White Tiger courtyard, a tall young man shouted coldly. He jumped down from the city wall and strode toward the young man from the Dongi tribe. It's Duanmu Yunfei. With him fighting, we'll most likely win. That's right. It is said that Duanmu Yunfei almost made it into the bronze list back then. His talent is very high. Now that he is 20 years old, he is already a first-layer martial grandmaster. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect were rather confident in Duanmu Yunfei. Duanmu Yun's flying speed is extremely fast. Not long after, she arrived in front of Ba He. Come down, let's fight. Duanmu Yunfei shouted coldly. Ba He smiled and jumped down from the tiger, facing Duanmu Yunfei. You go first. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. He was very confident. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? You're courting death. Duanmu Yunfei's killing intent flashed. He unsheathed his long sword and stabbed out 3 times in an instant. 3 sword radiances flashed at an astonishing speed. An ordinary martial master realm 9 martial artist would not be able to dodge them and would be killed in an instant. Duanmu Yunfei displayed the strength of a martial grand master. However, he arched his body slightly like a fierce tiger. He took a step forward and his body was as fast as lightning, easily dodging Duanmu Yunfei's sword radiances. So powerful. He has definitely reached the martial grand master realm. The spectators on the city wall were shocked. It seems that although the Dongi tribe has few people, they still have geniuses. Duanmu Yunfei's eyes flashed when his attack missed. He immediately activated his bloodline and displayed his strongest combat strength. Die. Swoosh. Swoosh. 9 consecutive swords, the sword chi continued to flow towards He. It's over. His eyes flashed fiercely. A strong evil aura seeped out of his body like a ferocious beast. Swoosh. A snow-white ray of light flashed out like a bright moonlight. It was his blade radiance. However, it was unbelievably fast. Duanmu Yunfei did not even see it clearly before he felt a chill in his throat. Then, endless darkness enveloped him. 1 slash. He killed Duanmu Yunfei with 1 slash. How is that possible? On the city wall, the spectators were shocked when they saw Duanmu Yunfei's head flying high. When did he slash out? I didn't see it clearly. I didn't see it clearly either. It was too fast. I only saw a flash of light and Duanmu Yunfei was killed. This he is too strong. The Dongi tribe has such a genius. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect discussed. In my opinion, the Dongi tribe came prepared this time. They have sent their top genius. Fu Liang frowned and said, "Damn it. If it weren't for the rule of being below 20 years old, I would have killed him." A young man in his 20s who was at the Martial Master Realm 3rd Realm said, "I'll kill him." At this moment, another young man walked out and jumped down the city wall. It's Liu Cheng. He has already reached the peak of the 1st layer of the Martial Grandmaster Realm. It is said that he has been bitterly cultivating a low-grade profound tier martial skill. I reckon he has already reached a certain level of maturity. I wonder if he will be able to fight against his opponent. If his lower black level martial technique reaches the 2nd level, he should be able to fight. Liu Cheng quickly arrived in front of He. Make your move. He still had that calm expression on his face. In his eyes, there was even a hint of disdain. Being looked down upon by a barbarian from the Dongi tribe, Liu Cheng's eyes flashed with killing intent. He unsheathed his sword and turned into a meteor, attacking He. Meteor sword play. There must be a 2nd level or even more. There is hope. However, before the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect could finish their words, they stopped abruptly. This was because he had slashed out with his blade. With 1 slash, Liu Cheng's head fell to the ground. Liu Cheng was still killed by a single slash. The sound of people sucking in cold breaths could be heard. How is that possible? How can a mere Dongi tribe have such a strong genius? He killed Liu Cheng, who has cultivated a black-level martial technique and reached the peak of Martial Master Realm 1st Realm. How strong is he? What is his cultivation? Chapter 151. To have such a strong combat strength at the age of 19, he would be considered a top genius even in the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Furthermore, they had no idea how strong the other party was. They only felt that he was unfathomable. Fu Liang frowned. After a while, he said, "If I'm not wrong, he has reached the peak of Martial Master Realm." What? Peak of Martial Master Realm? At the scene, the sound of people sucking in cold air once again rang out. To reach the peak of Martial Master Realm at the age of 19, he was stronger than they had imagined. Such a cultivation was considered top in the Mystic Essence Sword sect. For example, Zhong Muyun and Duanmu Yunyang were around 18 years old when the grand competition of the 4 academies took place. This was because they had deliberately stayed behind to accumulate experience. Disregarding everything else, just his cultivation speed was already not much weaker than Zhong Muyun and the others. However, Zhong Muyun and the rest were the top geniuses of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect. Damn it, the top geniuses of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect did not come today. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the chance to be so arrogant. Yeah, the other party caught us off guard. Although some people looked at Lu Ming, they shook their heads. Lu Ming was still a martial master not long ago. Even if he had reached the martial master realm, he would not be a match for the other party. Lu Ming's eyes flashed. Just as he was about to make a move, he spoke. What? No one is going to make a move? The Mystic Essence Sword Sect is only SOSO. How about this? I'll raise the age by 2 years. Anyone below 22 can come and fight with me. He laughed with disdain. Alright, 22 years old. You said it yourself. The young man who was over 20 years old shouted. He jumped down and rushed towards the other party. Haha, senior brother Lu Tian has made his move. The other party is dead for sure. He's too confident. He actually raised his own age by 2 years. Senior brother Lu Tian is exactly 22 years old, and his cultivation has already reached the 3rd layer of the martial grandmaster realm. It's enough to suppress him. Furthermore, senior brother Lu Tian was someone who was on the bronze ranking back then. The other party is courting death. After killing 2 of our people, he's too arrogant. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect smiled. However, Lu Ming frowned. He didn't know why, but he felt that it wasn't that simple. Soon, Lu Tian arrived in front of Bark. A mere barbarian has killed 2 disciples of my Mystic Essence Sword Sect. You deserve to die 1,000 times over. Now, let me send you on your way. Lu Tian's eyes were incomparably cold. He smiled faintly and said disdainfully, the other 2 said the same thing, but they couldn't even block a single strike from me. Don't compare me to them. Lu Tian shouted coldly as his aura burst forth. The aura of a 3rd-grade martial master formed a strong pressure that crushed towards the other party. However, Bark only smiled faintly with a hint of mockery on his lips. He was as calm as the wind, as if he was not under any pressure at all. Backwind 3 slashes. Lu Tian suddenly shouted and unsheathed his saber. A terrifying saber light soared into the sky, forming a saber that was dozens of meters long and slashed towards Bark. Good, the 4th stage of a low-grade profound martial skill. Fu Liang applauded and thought to himself, as expected of a genius of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect. He can cultivate a low-grade profound martial skill to the 4th stage when he's only a 3rd-grade martial master. Ordinary martial artists might not be able to cultivate a low-grade profound martial skill at the 3rd-grade martial master realm. Even he, who had cultivated a low-grade profound martial skill for dozens of years, was only at the 4th stage. Interesting. Bark smiled and unsheathed his saber again. Swoosh. The saber light broke through the air and slashed rapidly towards Lu Tian's head. This move is useless against me. Lu Tian roared and his true chi burst forth. 2 sabers formed in front of him and slashed forward. Bam bam. The sabers formed by true chi were shattered, but Lu Tian had bought some time. The saber in his hand broke through the air and slashed towards the other party's head. Bark took a step back and retreated dozens of meters. Good. Senior brother Lu Tian is mighty. The Mystic Essence Sword Sect disciples shouted. Finally, a disciple of the Mystic Essence Sword Sect had the upper hand, so they were naturally excited. Haha, looks like you have some ability, unlike those trash just now. Then, I'll be serious too. Bark suddenly laughed. Be serious. Arrogant. You're clearly at a disadvantage, but you still want to save face. I was too full of myself. Senior brother Lu Tian, kill him. Show these Eastern barbarians the power of our Mystic Essence Sword Sect. Kill him. The Mystic Essence Sword Sect disciples shouted. However, Lu Tian could not laugh. The moment Bark said that he was serious, he felt a powerful and eerie aura shrouding him. Being shrouded by this aura, Lu Tian felt his body turn cold. A chill rose from the bottom of his heart. To be able to force me to use my true strength, You can die with no regrets. Bark licked his lips and a bloody light flashed in his eyes. Then, a thick black true chi emerged from his body. Purgatory saber technique. Bark shouted and slashed out. At this moment, the wind and clouds gathered. The black true chi on his body gathered together with the saber light and vaguely formed an evil spirit. It was as if an evil spirit had slashed out with his saber. Lu Tian was shocked. He roared and activated his bloodline, displaying his strongest combat strength. Meteor destruction, swish, swish. The two saber lights met in the air. With a loud sound, the saber light shot out. Bam! Then, a figure retreated quickly. It was Lu Tian. His face was pale and he coughed up blood. His eyes were filled with horror. After retreating, he turned around and ran. He did not dare to fight. It's too late to run. A cold voice sounded. A black saber light crossed the void and slashed at Lu Tian. Save me! Lu Tian shouted, but it was no use. Poochie. His head fell to the ground and blood splattered. Lu Tian, a third-stage martial master who was once on the bronze list, was killed by someone whose cultivation was lower than his. Moreover, it was from a small tribe like the Eastern barbarians. How is this possible? How is this possible? The Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples could not accept this fact. How could the Eastern barbarians have such a powerful genius? This was not a simple battle. One had to know that Lu Tian was also a genius. He was not an ordinary third-stage martial master. However, he was killed by someone whose cultivation was higher. The opponent's cultivation technique is very special. It doesn't seem like the cultivation technique of the Eastern barbarians. Fu Liang suddenly said. You're saying that the opponent is not from the Eastern barbarians? A Mystic Essence Sword sect disciple asked. I don't know. Maybe the Eastern barbarians had a fortuitous encounter. Fu Liang said. Haha, what genius. You're all trash. Is there anyone else who wants to fight with me? Bark's body was filled with black true chi. His gaze was like lightning and his aura was like a rainbow. No one said anything. At first, I thought that the Mystic Essence Sword sect had some powerful geniuses. That's why they set an age limit. Now it seems that there's no need. The small Emperor Lai Sun. No, the Mystic Essence Sword sect doesn't have any decent geniuses. Chapter 152. Lu Ming's expression changed. He had heard something from Ba his words. Ba he had just said small burning sun empire, but before he could finish, he changed the topic. This was strange. If he was from the Dongi tribe, he would not have said that. Could it be that Ba he was not from the Dongi tribe? He was not even from the Burning Sun Empire. But if he was not from the Burning Sun Empire, why would he go to the Dongi tribe? Lu Ming's thoughts were in a whirl. The people from the Mystic Essence Sword sect had ugly expressions on their faces. For a moment, no one dared to fight. There were a few fourth-grade martial master experts present, but they were all older than 22. If they fought, they would be a laughingstock. The soldiers on the city wall were also silent. In their eyes, the Mystic Essence Sword sect was a high and mighty martial arts holy land. But now, the geniuses of the Mystic Essence Sword sect were being suppressed by a young man from the Dongi tribe. This was a huge blow to their confidence, and their morale plummeted. Fu Liang's eyes were filled with anxiety. If this went on, it would not be good. Report. Suddenly, a soldier hurried in to report. What's the matter? Fu Liang asked. Governor, there's a major discovery. The Dongi tribe has sent a group of people 1,000 miles south of Dongqiu City. They are rushing towards Mount Jiuyao. The soldier reported. What? Is the Dongi tribe here an illusion? They are sending a surprise army to attack other big cities? Fu Liang was shocked. He quickly asked, how many people did the Dongi tribe send? Not many. Only a few hundred. The soldier replied. A few hundred? Fu Liang was stunned. What was the use of a few hundred? Governor, it is said that these hundreds of people are all experts. The weakest one is an advanced martial master. What? Fu Liang was shocked. He frowned. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect were also puzzled. The Dorngi tribe must have a motive. We must stop them. A disciple of the Mystic Essence Sword sect said. That's right. But they are all experts. There are probably many martial masters. If we want to stop them, we will have to rely on you. Fu Liang cupped his fists. No problem. The Mystic Essence Sword sect disciple nodded. It's just that we have to get rid of that young man. Otherwise, it'll be a huge blow to our morale. If the other party launches an all-out attack, we'll be at a disadvantage. Fu Liang sighed. The members of the Mystic Essence Sword sect frowned again. The other party is intentionally stalling for time. Something big is definitely happening over there. We have to hurry over as soon as possible. Someone said. I'll go. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Everyone couldn't help but forget about it. Lu Ming. Everyone was stunned. Lu Ming. He was going to make a move. Could it be that he really broke through to the Martial Grandmaster realm? Even if he broke through to the Martial Grandmaster realm, it would still be impossible for him to be a match for him. He is at the peak of the second layer of the Martial Grandmaster realm. Furthermore, it is clear that he is also an absolute genius. Maybe there is hope. A few days ago, I saw Lu Ming send Du Feng flying with one punch. Let him try. When the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect saw that it was Lu Ming who spoke, they couldn't help but whisper amongst themselves. Lu Ming ignored him and stepped forward. Senior brother Lu Ming, be careful. Pang Shi shouted from behind. Lu Ming smiled faintly and leaped down from the city wall. Among the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect, there was a pair of resentful eyes staring at Lu Ming. It was Du Feng. That day, he was injured by a punch and became a laughingstock. He was humiliated and hated Lu Ming to the core. Just a moment ago, he was still being mocked by others. At this moment, he was roaring in his heart, Haha, Lu Ming, go to hell. You think you are a genius? Do you think you are better than Lu Tian? It's good that you are dead. Beside him, the triangular-eyed youth also had a resentful look on his face. The few of them tried their best to squeeze forward, wanting to see Lu Ming being killed by Ba He with their own eyes. Lu Ming was as light as a swallow and arrived in front of Ba He in no time. Haha, after beating up the older one, a younger one came. Kid, since you are here, my saber will not show you any mercy. Seeing Lu Ming's age, Ba He was stunned for a moment before a mocking look appeared on his face. You are not from the Burning Sun Empire, are you? Lu Ming did not answer the question, but Ba He's face changed. Speak, what are you doing here? Also, what is the purpose of the Dorngi tribe heading to Mount Juyao? Lu Ming continued to ask. Ba He's face changed a few times before he sneered, you don't have to care about that. Anyway, it is useless for you to know because you are going to die soon. Then why aren't you attacking? I know that you are trying to stall for time and delay us, but I don't have that much time to waste with you. After Lu Ming finished speaking, the storage ring on his finger lit up and the fire tongue spear appeared in his hand. His aura also exploded. First level martial master? Ha ha ha, a first level martial master dares to come and die. How naive. At the sight of Lu Ming's cultivation level, Bark laughed maniacally. He almost burst into tears. On the city wall, Fu Liang kept shaking his head. Previously, when he saw Lu Ming's age, he felt that something was amiss. He was too young. Now that he saw Lu Ming's cultivation, he was a first-level martial master. Although it was shocking to have such cultivation at his age, he was still a first-level martial master. How could he be a match for Bark? Young hero, come back quickly. We will think of another way. Fu Liang shouted. Lu Ming was so young and had such a cultivation. In the Mystic Essence Sword sect, he was definitely a top genius. If he died here, Fu Liang was afraid that the Mystic Essence Sword sect would blame him. Mayor Fu, don't worry. Our junior Lu Ming is powerful and a peerless genius. Who knows, he might be able to kill Ba He? Du Feng said with a strange smile. However, everyone could hear the gloating and mockery in his words. Haha, since you are here, how can you leave? Ba He unsheathed his saber and a cold killing intent appeared on his body, enveloping Lu Ming. Nonsense. Lu Ming scolded. He couldn't be bothered to say more and swept out his spear. I will kill you with one slash. His voice was cold. The saber light was even colder as it slashed towards Lu Ming's head. It was as fast as lightning. Pu. The saber accurately landed on Lu Ming's neck. However, at that moment, he was shocked because it was only an afterimage. Not good. He let out a low roar and black chi burst out from his body. He stomped his feet and rushed forward without hesitation. Shio. A ray of spear aura pierced past his ear. The cold spear aura left a bloody scar on his face. Shua. Shua. He ran forward for dozens of meters before he dared to stop. He suddenly turned around and slashed at the air, but it hit nothing. Lu Ming stood dozens of meters away and looked at him with a smile. Hey, why are you slashing at the air? Lu Ming laughed. His face flushed red and his eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Your movement technique is not bad, but do you think you can defeat me with that? Dream on. Chapter 153. Purgatory Saber Technique. Kill. He roared. The saber aura pierced through the air and charged towards Lu Ming. Boom. Lu Ming's body emitted a scorching and explosive aura. Fire force. Once the fire force was released, it instantly crushed his cold killing intent. Force. His pupils constricted as shock flashed across his eyes. He never expected that Lu Ming could comprehend force at such a young age. So what if he comprehended force? He's only a first-stage martial master. Even if he comprehended force, he won't be my match. His eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He was also a genius and could even kill a third-stage martial master. His combat strength was infinitely close to the fourth-stage martial master. He didn't believe that he wouldn't be a match for a first-stage martial master. His saber slashed out even more fiercely. This is a good opportunity to test my current combat strength. Landslide. Lu Ming took a step forward and swept his long spear from bottom to top. Clang. The saber and spear clashed, causing a deafening roar. A terrifying force surged and swept in all directions. One could see that the ground beneath Lu Ming and his feet exploded, creating a 10-meter wide and 2-meter deep crater. Boom. Then, a figure quickly retreated. It was He. He staggered back more than 20 meters, his face filled with shock. One move. With just one move, he could feel that the vital energy in Lu Ming's body was like a violent storm. It was continuous, indestructible, and extremely condensed. What he cultivated was a black-level superior-grade technique. His vital energy was rich and condensed, far surpassing the vital energy cultivated by yellow-level techniques. However, compared to Lu Ming's vital energy, it was trash. It was completely crushed. How can he be so strong? This strength is already comparable to a fourth-stage martial master. He roared in his heart. There was a small gap between the third-stage martial master and the fourth-stage martial master, and the gap was huge. He was shocked, and the people on the city wall were even more shocked. Their mouths were so wide open that a duck egg could be stuffed in. This young hero Lu Ming? Was he really only 16 years old? Is he really only at the first level of the martial grandmaster realm? Shock was written all over Fu Liang's determined old face. He had experienced countless life and death battles in his life, but he had never been so shocked. City Lord Fu, speaking of which, our junior brother Lu Ming is a legendary figure in the Mystic Essence Sword sect. He entered the sect last year, and in his first year, he rushed to the top of the bronze list. An older disciple of the Vermilion Bird Courtyard explained, his face faintly revealing a proud expression. You joined last year? First place on the bronze list in his first year? Fu Liang repeated and was even more shocked. On the side, Du Feng and the triangular-eyed young man's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They stared at the city wall, thinking that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Ha ha ha. Pang chagrined. What are you waiting for? Let's continue. Lu Ming smiled faintly and dashed toward He. Purgatory Saber Technique, Human Purgatory. He roared in rage and erupted with all his strength. His bloodline, His potential, everything erupted as he rushed towards Lu Ming. Broken armor. The long spear stabbed out like lightning. Clang. Bark retreated again. Boom. Boom. Next, the two exchanged more than 10 moves, leaving more than 10 large pits on the ground. Bark was completely at a disadvantage. His face was pale and his body was trembling. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. It's time to end this, Lu Ming whispered. He had a rough idea of his current combat strength. Without activating his bloodline, he could probably fight with an ordinary 4th-grade martial grandmaster. If he activated his bloodline, it should not be a problem for him to kill them. In the martial grandmaster realm, it was absolutely shocking to be able to kill an opponent who was 3 grades higher than him. Boom. With a flash of blood, Lu Ming's bloodline was activated and his strength increased greatly. Swoosh. The long spear turned into a ray of light and was much faster than before. Poochie. The long spear directly pierced through Bark's heart. The small blazing sun empire. Bark's eyes widened unwillingly, and then he stopped breathing. Poochie. Pulling out the long spear, the body shook and blood splattered. There was not a single drop of blood on the tip of the spear. The devouring power appeared in his palm and devoured Bark's blood essence. Then, he started to refine it. As he refined it, he looked at the Dongi army. He pointed his spear at the Eastern barbarian army and shouted, "Who among you wants to fight? Mighty, mighty." On the city wall, tens of thousands of soldiers roared and their voices shook the sky. In the distance, the Dongi army panicked. They turned around and retreated. After the Dongi army retreated, Lu Ming returned to the city wall. "Haha, young hero Lu Ming is a peerless genius. I have never seen someone like you before," Fu Liang exclaimed. "Thank you for your compliment. I was just lucky," Lu Ming said modestly. Then, he said, "Let's organize our men and rush to Mount Joyao." "That's right. Young heroes, who wants to go? There are a few sky eagles in the camp that can carry you there quickly," Fu Liang asked. "This time, those above the martial grandmaster realm will go. Those below the martial grandmaster realm will stay here to guard," a 4th-level martial grandmaster expert said. Everyone nodded and had no objections. Soon, 5 huge sky eagles took off from Dongqiu City and flew towards Mount Joyao. Most of the 100 or so martial grandmaster disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect had gone. Lu Ming was among them. There were 5 4th-layer martial grandmaster experts gathered on the largest sky eagle in the middle. They were all 4th-level martial master experts from the Mystic Essence Sword sect who had come this time. Among them, there were 2 from the White Tiger Hall and 1 from each of the other 3 halls. Of course, Lu Ming was among them. After this battle, they had already regarded Lu Ming as a 4th-level martial grandmaster. 5 4th-level martial grandmasters and Lu Ming gathered together to discuss. "Everyone, I suggest that we put aside the grudges between the 4 halls for the time being. What do you think?" Chen Quan, a 25-year-old 4th-level martial grandmaster from the Vermilion Bird Hall, suggested. "I have no objections." "Me neither." The 2 4th-level martial grandmasters from the Azure Dragon Hall and the Black Tortoise Hall nodded. The 2 4th-level martial master experts from the White Tiger Hall glanced at Lu Ming and exchanged glances. Subsequently, they nodded and said, "We have no objections." "Me neither." Lu Ming nodded with a smile. He didn't care. If the White Tiger Hall wanted to target him, he didn't mind teaching them a painful lesson. "That's good. This time, the Dongi tribe and other people are involved in this matter. In my opinion, there must be something fishy about Mount Joyao. No matter what, we must stop them. The Dongi tribe has limited experts. With our strength, it should be enough." Chen Quan analyzed. Everyone nodded. Chapter 154. Soon, Mount Joyao came into view. Mount Joyao was more than 3,000 meters tall and covered with strange rocks. Among them, there were 9 huge rocks, each of which was 50 to 60 meters tall. They were shaped like demonic beasts, hence the name Mount Joyao. At this moment, more than 200 people were gathered under a tiger-shaped rock. There were men and women, most of whom were middle-aged men and women. The men were topless, and the women were wrapped in animal skins. They were obviously from the Dongi tribe. At this moment, a few Dongi elders surrounded the tiger-shaped rock and smeared blood on it. It's the Dongi tribe. They're carving inscriptions. Chen Quan shouted. Go down and stop them. Caw. The Gale Eagles screeched and rushed toward the Dongi tribe. It's the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Kill them. We can't let them ruin our plan to open the ancestral ruins. Kill them. The Dongi tribe used to rule the Blazing Sun Empire. As long as we get the treasures in the ancestral ruins, we'll rise again and rule the Blazing Sun Empire. Roars rang out one after another, accompanied by incomparably sharp arrows. Swoosh, swoosh. Hundreds of arrows streaked across the sky and shot toward the 5 Gale Eagles. Stop them. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect sent out sword chi, saber chi, and fist energy to block the arrows. However, these arrows were shot by martial arts experts, and most of them were shot by martial grandmasters. They were imbued with powerful true chi. Although the Dongi tribe disciples tried their best to block them, many of the arrows still penetrated their defenses. Puff, puff. Many of the arrows hit the Gale Eagles. Oh no. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect were shocked. They had no choice but to jump off the Gale Eagles and use body lightning technique to descend. However, this made them easy targets for the Dongi tribe. Kill. The Eastern barbarians roared, and another wave of arrows shot toward them. The Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples roared and tried their best to block the arrows. However, they were in the air and could only use their true chi to block the arrows. Ah, ah. Miserable cries rang out as 5 or 6 disciples with weaker cultivations had their bodies pierced by arrows. Their hearts and other parts of their bodies fell to the ground. Whoosh, whoosh. At this time, Lu Ming's high air steps displayed a mysterious power. When he stepped on the air, it was as if he was stepping on solid objects. A wave of energy was generated, and Lu Ming's figure floated, dodging several arrows. However, he had only cultivated to the 3rd level and could not last for long. But it was enough. With a few leaps, Lu Ming charged toward the Dongi tribe. Whoosh, whoosh. Another wave of arrows shot over like shooting stars, incomparably fast. The arrows pierced through the air, bringing with them sharp and terrifying whistling sounds. Moon seizing. Lu Ming swept out with his spear, sweeping away the dozens of arrows in front of him. What a powerful force. Lu Ming felt his wrist go numb. A few more screams came from the sky. More people from the Mystic Essence Sword sect were hit by arrows. At this point, however, they were already close to the Eastern barbarians. Kill. Kill these Eastern barbarians. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect shouted angrily, launching powerful attacks downward. The Eastern barbarians put away their bows and unsheathed their swords, slashing out a pale white blade light. Boom, boom. A series of explosions rang out. The disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect borrowed the force of their attacks to reduce the force of their fall. They landed on the ground and engaged in a fierce battle with the Eastern barbarians. It had to be said that the Eastern barbarians had sent many experts this time. At least 100 of them were martial grandmasters. The rest were high-level martial grandmasters. However, the disciples of the Mystic Essence Sword sect were, after all, disciples of a large sect. Their combat strength was higher than that of ordinary people. For a moment, the battle was difficult to determine who would win. Hold on. The ancestral ruins is about to open. An elder of the Eastern barbarians shouted. Kill. The battle between the two sides was extremely fierce. There were 6 or 7 4th-level martial grandmasters among the Eastern barbarians. Chen Quan and the others were completely entangled. Clang. Lu Ming swept out with his spear. 3 of the Eastern barbarians above the 7th level of martial grandmaster were sent flying. Their bones were broken, and they were no longer breathing. Little bastard, you're courting death. A 50-year-old Eastern barbarian slashed at Lu Ming with his saber. Landslide. Lu Ming swept out with his spear and exchanged a blow with his opponent. The two of them were pushed back by the force of the collision. 4th-level martial grand master. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. His opponent was even more shocked. He saw that Lu Ming was only a first-level martial grandmaster. He thought that he would be able to finish him off with one blow. He didn't expect that they would be evenly matched. A genius. A peerless genius of the Mystic Essence Sword sect. Good. Killing such a genius is enough to make the Mystic Essence Sword sect's heart ache. The man licked his lips. His eyes flashed with violence. Kai Kai, the Eastern barbarian, slashed out 12 times. The pale white saber light enveloped Lu Ming's vital points. Fire dance. With a flick of his spear, flowers of flame appeared, beautiful and dangerous. Bang! Bang! A series of rapid explosions sounded. The flowers of fire dissipated and the saber light was defeated. Chasing lightning. Without any hesitation, Lu Ming's spear pierced toward his opponent's throat like lightning. Whoosh! The other party's saber actually started to spin in his hands, transforming into a snow-white full moon formed by saber gleams. Lu Ming's long spear pierced over but was deflected with a clang. Beast Hunter's 18 slashes. The burly man from the Dongi tribe charged toward Lu Ming again. Lu Ming also attacked with his spear. In the blink of an eye, the two exchanged dozens of blows. Gradually, Lu Ming gained the upper hand. Lu Ming had the power of fire. Coupled with the astral fire spear art, his attacks were like a volcanic eruption. Coupled with his extremely condensed vital energy, he was extremely violent. The other party was only an early-stage 4th-grade martial master and was gradually losing. Buzz! At this moment, the tiger-shaped stone suddenly emitted a bright light. Haha, the ancestral ruins are open. An elder from the Eastern barbarian tribe laughed. The tiger-shaped stone shone brightly. Slowly, it condensed into a 10-meter-tall and 3-meter-wide light gate. Kill them all. We'll go to the ruins. The elders from the Eastern barbarian tribe who had been smearing the blood of the demonic beasts on their bodies roared. Each of them released a powerful aura and charged toward the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples. Of the 5 people, 2 of them actually had the cultivation of the 5th level of the Martial Master realm. The other 3 also had the cultivation of the 4th level of the Martial Master realm. Once they joined the battle, the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples were at a disadvantage. In a few breaths' time, 5 or 6 of their disciples were killed. Charge! Charge toward that light! Lu Ming suddenly shouted. Since they couldn't win, they might as well charge toward the treasure. Perhaps they could turn the tables. Yes, charge! The Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples roared and charged toward the light gate. Damn it! Stop them! As expected, the Eastern barbarians panicked. They roared and tried their best to stop the Mystic Essence Sword sect disciples. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.